Hey guys, well here's another update on our Super Duty Derby truck. Hey guys, Alex here with All For Him Racing, and today giving you another update once again on our Super Duty Derby truck build. As you can see, we got this thing turned around in the shop and we have been busy, guys. So I'll try to do my best to cover everything that was done, and if I repeat something that maybe we already did, sorry about that, but we'll just keep on rolling. So we got the fender washers welded in place. We have to wire the hood per the rules here, and we can only go to the adjacent sheet metal, but we are allowed to weld washers onto the fenders. So I did that on both sides, as well as the hood. We're going to do the same thing on the rear bed and the tailgate, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Motor wise, we've been hard at work. We've got the carburetor all mounted and hooked up there, fuel line hooked up to the fuel pump. We installed our new spark plug wires. Those are the custom length ones that we had to cut and crimp. Mainly just time consuming, not really that difficult of a task, but I did not buy like the super high dollar crimpers, so I had to just use a little bit of finesse and needle nose pliers and some other things, and once I got the technique down, they actually turned out looking really good, but it's just a matter of learning how to do it. As you can see, we routed the wires down underneath this way that they'll be out of the way of the exhaust. So when our new headers come in, hopefully this coming week, we'll be able to get those bolted up and it'll keep the heat away. We've got those shields over the spark plugs and the wires there, so hopefully that'll help as well. But yeah, I got the wiring nicely clamped together, bought some aftermarket things to help with that. Different brackets up top, but to be in the firing order that it is, it's a little bit of a mess. And partially that is just to kind of keep the wires condensed, but it's actually a lot cleaner than what used to be there using the stock wire lengths. Also went ahead and mounted the radiator. So did a little bit of back and forth, hunting around different part stores, part yards for radiators. Unfortunately, there's really not a lot out in the market right now for this vehicle that would work with the configurations of where the coolant hoses actually come out of the motor, and so we had to figure out how to make do and actually kind of switch things around a little bit. So we're actually using the stock radiator for this truck. It's pretty big and beefy. There's a lot of volume to it, and so we're just going to go ahead and use that. I'm a little leery about using this overflow tank, so that may get changed out here. Just for the meantime, I did hook it all up just so that way I could get rolling with it. And I need some means of actually being able to put coolant water in it, so I think the tank will work out okay. I'm just a little concerned about heat and its ability to take the impacts that we're going to have, so I may end up just making it more floating, maybe using some zip ties and other things, or just completely take it out or try to replace it. But for now, at least we got something in place, so that way this thing will be able to stay cool. And again, it's a really large radiator. As you guys can see, it's kind of hard to give a scale to it, but the truck, relative to the front of the truck, it's a monster radiator. But it also means that it is a bit of a target, I suppose. It's just one more thing that could easily get taken out. So it certainly may, if time allows, be able to swap this thing out. But for now, I've got it. I didn't have to pay any extra money for it. I just picked up one extra radiator hose to use on the top here that was long enough to go across. Again, just pulling it from an auto parts lot. So went ahead and did that and spliced a couple hoses together there at the bottom. That actually all looks pretty good and is not leaking, so we'll leave that alone. We're going to put the front condenser back on just as another layer of protection against this radiator. Again, these are pretty stock rules, so there's not a whole lot I can do. Not really allowed to add any mesh or anything else to try to help protect the radiator, so we're going to add the condenser cooling radiator back into the front here. We'll get that bolted in, and hopefully that will help, again, just kind of that'll take the abuse. That way the radiator will hopefully remain clean and intact. Got the front frame here ready to accept the bumper. We just went ahead and cut those tow hooks off, but left the base to them. And actually what we did was we unbolted them, took them out, cut them, put them back in. And what that allows is now I can use those bolts that were completely 100% stock for this truck, left them in place, and then that way that'll just kind of help hold that whole front end together, and the mount for that front leaf. So those are there, they're going to stay there, again, completely stock, just cutting away the metal that I don't need. And we're going to just modify these front plates. If you look at where the holes are, they're very much centered towards the bottom. So we're going to modify these top holes, and we're going to actually drill another hole about approximately up in here, I think is what I've marked. And that's where we're going to use to bolt to our bumper. Again, the rules say we have to bolt the bumper onto the vehicle. We're allowed up to 4 bolts per side, so we're going to use every bolt that we possibly can to hold this thing on. And I think with just some minor modifications to these front mounts that are already here, they're already pretty beefy. We're just going to go ahead and drill into those, just make that a little bit bigger. Probably going to drill a new hole. I thought about just extending this slot, but haven't quite decided yet. I'd like to leave as much metal there as I can, so that's probably going to be just drilled out. Another thing you guys may notice, and I didn't really point out when I first started filming, is that I got the derby tires on here now. So I've got a new set of tires that we had picked up, and I was originally thinking for the back, but they're pretty tall and narrow, and they're also quite heavy. So I thought they might make more sense to be on the front of this vehicle. Hopefully they'll be able to be a little stronger and take the abuse that it'll have to endure and more of the weight. And then we've got another set of snow tires that are on the back. Those are lighter and should be able to spin a little easier in the mud and hopefully not tear up my axle. Got some of the welding done on the door here. Fortunately, I got too much stuff, so I can't really back up to get a better view for you guys. But as you can see, we got the plating all tacked into place. Reread the rules, and it just says no welding on the top of the door frames. So obviously that means across the top and over here. So we may wrap some duct tape on the post right there, but we did weld up as high as we can. You know, maybe not all the way up to the very tippy top, but I think for what we need, that'll be plenty sufficient. And again, you know, just having them all tacked in and on, now it's just a matter of taking the welder and just filling in all the gaps so that way it's welded all the way around, and will, you know, just further strengthen the vehicle. This would work, but need to make it better. And it was getting really late when I was doing this, so I wasn't able to really hammer away. Some of this top plate needs to just kind of be folded over the end there, so we'll be taking care of that as well when the time comes. I do have the passenger door prepped and the metal cut for welding it. However, I have not started welding that yet because I want to have that door able to open until the rest of the inside stuff is all mounted and taken care of. Just makes life a lot easier to be able to open the door versus having to climb in every time you need to do something. And we have a new bed, guys. This is one that my father-in-law hooked me up with. He had it on another vehicle at his house, and so he offered it to me, and so here we are. Now we've got it swapped out. So we took off the old bed. Thing was a rotted mess of a bed. This one is a lot cleaner. There's definitely, you know, some age rust, your typical Ford rust above the wheel wells there, but the inside is so much more solid, and I'm definitely much happier with this bed. It's going to be a lot better than the old one, and it's a little more narrow, which is interesting. So the sides are a little more narrow, which honestly I think will help us too. I don't think the other bed was really the most optimum for Derby anyway. So other than the ridge doesn't line up, it's pretty good. And believe it or not, so this bed is off of what at least the cab was. It's an '84 Ford F-150, I believe, and the bolt holes for this bed lined up perfect. I mean, front to back, side to side, they line up exactly. And so I honestly couldn't believe it. I was hoping, you know, the engineer in me was hoping that the engineers were lazy and just said, hey, let's not change this up any if we don't need to. And I mean perfect. So the holes lined up perfect. The under cross supports, it was taller in the front, shorter in the rear, and then above the wheels it kind of raises up a little bit on the frame. And then the other frame that this bed came off of did the exact same thing. So literally it sits perfect on this frame. So there you go, guys. If look for an older, you know, I don't know about the 70s, maybe it's the same deal, but this one's an early 80s Ford bed, and it bolted right onto the Super Duty with no problem. It was a dual tank setup, so I'll have to weld those doors shut. And then there's the snow tires I was talking about for the rear. It is kind of hard to find 16-inch snow tires. And again, these tires need to all be DOT approved, so that was somewhat difficult to find. If you had needed like aftermarket tractor tires or skid tires, they're a little easier to come by, honestly. So took a little bit of hunting, but found a local derby guy that had some of these on another vehicle, so I picked them up. And they are a fair bit lighter than the ones that are on the front. You know, they're still plenty well strengthened from the ply standpoint, but the ones on the front are load range E, these are D, so a little less tread. But I think for what we need to do, having a little lighter tire in the back that can spin away in the mud, because this track is really muddy, I think will be a good thing. Here's the hood just kind of sitting here ready. Went ahead and actually did the same thing, welded the washers on the hood and got the bumper here ready to go as well. So that's pretty much the main update. I mean, we've been working hard at getting all that done. That's a lot. And so there you go, guys. There is an update on the Super Duty Derby truck. Oh, and we got the tailgate sitting here too, and we'll be welding washers and getting that ready to mount as well. So there you go, guys. There's an update on the Super Duty Derby truck build. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you've not already done so. As always, we hope that you guys have a great day, and until the next video, we'll talk to you later, guys.